Administration of Alauddin Khilji. First is the Mughal invasions. During Alauddin Khilji's reign, means during Alauddin Khilji's rule, the Mughals invaded India 5 times, but every time they faced a defeat from Alauddin's generals. So the Mughals attacked India 5 times, but every time these Mughals were defeated by Alauddin's generals. He had made strong arrangements to check Mughals. So Alauddin Khilji, he made very strong arrangements to check this Mughal invasion. So what were those arrangements that Alauddin Khilji made? He got all the forts along the routes of attack repaired and reinforced. All the forts that were on the path of attack, on the path of Mughal attack, he repaired all those forts and reinforced them, means placed soldiers on all those forts to check Mughal invasion. Secondly, he paid special attention towards the organization, training and discipline of his army. He was very much strict, he was very much concerned about the organization, training and discipline of his army. He also punished those Mongols who settled near Delhi at the time of Jalaluddin Khilji. So the Mongols who settled near Delhi during the time of Jalaluddin Khilji, he also punished those Mongols in order to make the other Mongols who were in Central Asia to frighten them so that they don't come into the country and attack. So in order to frighten the Mongols in Central Asia, he used to torture the Mongols, those settled near Delhi. Then measures against nobles. On his accession to the throne, Alauddin had to face a number of revolts by the nobles and some of his own relatives. So when Alauddin Khilji ascended the throne, many nobles and his own relatives, they were against, or they were protesting against Alauddin Khilji. He analyzed the causes of these revolts and made some reforms to root out this. So in order to overcome these revolts, in order to suppress these revolts, he made some reforms. Reforms means he made some changes. What were they? He reduced the economic and political power of the nobles. He prepared a very strong spy system. Then the economic reforms that were introduced by Alauddin Khilji. What were they? Alauddin Khilji introduced many economic reforms during his rule. Alauddin fixed the prices of food grains, cloth and other commodities and had them enforced rigorously. So Alauddin Khilji, he himself fixed the prices of food grains, cloth and other commodities and saw that and he also checked that these fixed prices should be followed strictly by the shopkeepers or by the market. No one was permitted to purchase grain from the cultivators directly. No one was allowed to purchase grains from the farmers directly. Only the authorized traders could do so. The authorized traders, they will purchase grains from the cultivators and then they will sell in the market for the other people or for the consumers to purchase them. So the people, they cannot directly purchase grains from the cultivators. All merchants in Delhi were required to register themselves. So in order to become a merchant or in order to become a businessman in Delhi, first they were required to register themselves with Alauddin Khilji. All types of speculation and black marketing were checked rigorously. If anybody does not follow these fixed prices of Alauddin Khilji, or anybody does any kind of black marketing, that is selling of commodities at a higher price rather than the price that was fixed by Alauddin Khilji, if any such thing was done or if any such thing was caught, then they were punished very strictly. Alauddin's economic measures had also important aspect and that related to his land revenue policy. In this, the Sultan had twin motives. So why he did these economic reforms? So first is he wanted to establish direct link between the states and the tillers of the soil. Tillers means the farmers. So he wanted to establish a direct link between the states and the tillers of the soil, that is the farmers. At the same time, he wanted to raise the revenue from the land. He wanted the tax to be raised from the land. The Sultan also put an end to the special privileges of the Chaudhries, that is the headman of the Parganas. These Chaudhries were actually the headmen of the villages and he wanted to stop their rule. He wanted to stop the special privileges of these Chaudhries. Khuts, they were the zamindars, and the Mukaddams, they were the headman of the villages. So in order to stop the special privileges of these people, he wanted the land revenue to directly come to him. and this was another reason why he did these economic reforms. Besides, the state collected the revenue in kind from the Khalisa lands. In kind means the revenue was collected not in money but by other kind of commodity from the Khalisa lands. The sultans introduced two new taxes. They were the horse tax and a tax on all milk cows. These were the two new taxes that was introduced by Alauddin Khilji. Character and achievements of Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin was undoubtedly a great conqueror and a noble administrator. He built a vast empire equal to that of Ashoka. It was the first of its kind in the medieval period. So in the medieval period, Alauddin Khilji's empire was the first of its kind that managed or that was compared to the administration of Ashoka, or it was compared to the territories that were conquered by Ashoka. He linked the south with the north. He did not allow religion to shadow his administration. He never did any kind of discrimination against any kind of religion. He had great qualities of head and heart. He was an absolute despot. Despot means a king or other ruler with absolute unlimited powers. So he was an absolute despot. That is why he suppressed the nobility to such an extent that no one would ever think of revolting against him. So he crushed the power of the nobility to such an extent that not a single noble was thinking to revolt against Alauddin Khilji. His chief aim was the welfare of his subjects. As we already studied, he never discriminated against any kind of religion. He was a person of head and heart. So that is why his main aim was the welfare of his subjects. He had made various military reforms, means many military changes, such as branding of horses. Branding of horses means he used to select the horses of good quality on his own, so that his army could get the superior quality horses. So that was branding of horses. It was called the. This type of system was called the. And preparing descriptive roles, that was called chehera. This kind of this system was called chehera. Branding of horses was called dag, and preparing descriptive roles was called chehera. Preparing descriptive roles means the soldiers, they were given identity card so that any outsider does not come and get recruited in his army. Although he was illiterate, yet he was a great patron of art and architecture. There were many poets and scholars in his court. Amir Khusro was a renowned poet of his court. Alauddin was also a great builder. To commemorate his Deccan conquests, the Horse Khas complex in India. So in order to the sentence is to commemorate his Deccan conquests, he built the famous Alai Darwaza. So in order to commemorate means in order to give honor to his Deccan conquest, in order to honor the memory of his Deccan conquest. So in order for that, he built this famous Alai Darwaza near Qutub Minar. We can see the picture over here. This is the Alai Darwaza given. So it was built near Qutub Minar. He also built the new town of Shiri near Delhi and got constructed Horse Khas, a royal tank. We can see here the picture over here. The Horse Khas royal tank picture is given over here. So all these constructions he carried on. Alauddin died in 1316 AD. After his death, his slave Malik Kafur acted as the regent of Alauddin's minor son. Regent is since Alauddin Khilji's son was minor, means he was just a child. So that is why Malik Kafur acted as a regent, means he ruled on behalf of Alauddin Khilji's minor son till his son was capable of becoming a king. Till that time, Malik Kafur was the regent of his son. His intrigues greatly made him unpopular and unreliable. So Malik Kafur's intrigues, unnecessary interference, made him very much unpopular and unreliable. As a result of these acts, Malik Kafur was killed 36 days after the death of Alauddin Khilji. So within 36 days, Malik Kafur was killed because of his interfering nature. Soon thereafter, the Khilji dynasty fell and it was replaced by a new dynasty of the Tughlaqs. The last Khilji ruler was killed in 1320 AD by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, and then started the Tughlaq dynasty. So now we will study about the Tughlaq sultans. So the first ruler of the Tughlaq dynasty was Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was the founder of the Tughlaq dynasty. He was a competent ruler. He followed a vigorous foreign policy. He reformed judiciary and police departments. He brought changes in the judiciary as well as police departments. He reduced land revenue to one tenth of the produce, whatever was the production. So he reduced that to one tenth of the produce. He reduced the land tax to one tenth of the produce. He also built dams and laid canals for irrigation. For irrigation purpose, he built dams and canals. He built forts for the protection of the people. He also built a new city named Tughlaqabad near Delhi. He also conquered Warangal and a great portion of Bengal. So these were the territories. Warangal, that was in Deccan, and great portions of Bengal were conquered by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. When he returned from his Bengal expedition, his son Juna Khan constructed a pavilion for his welcome. So after conquering Bengal, when he returned back, his son Juna Khan, he constructed a pavilion to welcome his father Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq in 1325. The pavilion collapsed and fell on the king, killing him instantly. But the pavilion, it fell down and it killed Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. After his death, Juna Khan ascended the throne under the title of Mohammed bin Tughlaq. So after Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq's death, his son Juna Khan, he ascended the throne and took the title Mohammed bin Tughlaq. So then we will study Mohammed bin Tughlaq. Mohammed bin Tughlaq was a scholar of mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, logic, medicine and physical sciences. He was a great poet and a great orator also. Orator means a person who is very good in giving speech in public. But all his qualities failed in his practical life. So he has such good qualities, but in his practical life, all these qualities failed. He was a strange man. Practically, he was a very strange man. He was liberal in religious outlook, yet his ideas were not rational. So he was very much liberal in religious outlook, means he never discriminated against any religion, but his ideas were not at all rational, means not at all practical. Muhammad bin Tughlaq's reign is known for many ambitious schemes, means many ambitious plans. These schemes failed because of his poor judgment and impatient nature. So his schemes were good, his plans were good, but those plans practically when they were applied, they failed because of his poor judgment and impatient nature. This brought ruin to the empire. That is why some historians called him half mad. So because of this kind of nature Muhammad bin Tughlaq possessed, many of the historians called him half mad because his plans were theoretically very good, but practically they were very absurd in nature. But modern historians in general feel that he was a wise man and most of his ideas were sensible and rational, though unconventional. But most of the historians, some of the historians call him half mad, but modern historians they think that he was a wise man, but his ideas were very unconventional, means non-practical in nature. He tried to provide unique solutions to his problems, but this proceeded his times and failed to win confidence of the people. So he tried in that time the solutions that were provided by Muhammad bin Tughlaq for the problems, they were far beyond that time, means they were not competent during that particular period of time, and so he failed to win the confidence of the people. As a result, all his experiments failed. These experiments were as follows. So some of the experiments are given here, some of the plans that Muhammad bin Tughlaq made theoretically, but while executing those plans, the plans failed. So among them, first is the taxation in Doab. The increase of taxation in Doab region. Doab region was actually the fertile region in between Ganga and Yamuna. So the increase of taxation in the Doab region was an ill-measured step on the part of the Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the tax of the Doab region because it is a very fertile region. Fertile region means good in agriculture. Good in agricultural means more production of crops. So that is why Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the tax of the Doab region. No doubt the Doab region between Ganga and Yamuna was highly fertile and production was more than any other part of the country. So as I told you, it was a fertile region, so obviously production is more in that particular region, and that was the reason there was a hike in tax, but that hike in tax came at a wrong time. Hike means the increase in tax. That was the reason why he increased the tax, but that increase in taxation came at a very wrong time, and assessment of revenue was not based on the factual report. The examination of the revenue, the examination of the tax was not done at the factual report. There was the practical report, and the assessment was not based on that practical report. Peasants were already paying the land revenue tax, almost the half of the produce. During the time when Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the taxation, at that time the peasants were already paying half of their produce, were already paying tax that was half of their produce. Therefore, another increase in the land revenue tax created serious peasant discontentment. They were very much unsatisfied. The peasants were very much unsatisfied because more further increase in tax was a very serious problem for the peasants. This also came at a time when the Doab was at the verge of a famine. So already we studied here that the tax was, the assessment of the tax was not based on the factual report. These were the factual report. That is, they were paying already half of the tax, and this increase in tax came at a time when the region was already facing a famine. Famine means there was no rain, and for which the production was almost negligible. This made the situation more deplorable. This made the situation more pathetic. On the other hand, the officers engaged in the duty of tax collection could not try to understand the situation and went on collecting the taxes forcefully. And the officers who were engaged in this tax collection, they did not understand the problem of the peasants, and forcefully they went on collecting taxes, for which the peasants, unwilling and unable to pay tax, fled away from the villages. But officials of Muhammad bin Tughlaq took harsh measures to capture and punish them. So because the peasants were unable to pay this increased tax, they flew away from their villages. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq's officers, they captured these peasants and they punished them. So this was one experiment that failed. Next experiment was the transfer of the capital. Transfer of the capital from Delhi to Devagiri, that was Daulatabad, was the most controversial step of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Several factors prompted him to take this decision. So why he decided to transfer his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad? What was the reason? So this were the reasons. So let us study the reasons. They were, Devagiri had been a base for the expansion of Turkish rule in India. It was in the center and strategically important compared to Delhi. So Devagiri, it was situated in the center of the country. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq saw that Devagiri could be a very important base to increase Turkish rule in India. So that is why he decided to shift from Delhi to Devagiri. Second was, Delhi was nearer to the northwestern frontier, that was northwestern border, which was exposed to Mongol invasions. Delhi was situated near to the northwestern frontier, which was every time exposed to Mongol invasion. But Devagiri would be a safe place and almost free from Mongol threats. But Devagiri, since it is far away from the northwestern border, so that is why Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought it to be a safe place from Mongol attacks. He ordered his courtiers, officers, leading men including Sufi saints as well as all people of Delhi to shift to Devagiri. So he ordered all those people, all the courtiers, all officers, everybody from even the Sufi saints also, they were asked to shift from Delhi to Devagiri. Though the inhabitants of Delhi were unwilling to leave their dear land of birth, inhabitants means the people of Delhi, the native people of Delhi, they were unwilling to leave their land of birth. They had to obey the Sultan's order, but still they had to leave Delhi because of the Sultan's order. Nobody was allowed to stay at Delhi. According to Ibn Battuta, so Ibn Battuta wrote a record on this transfer of capital. So in that he wrote, a search was made and a blind man and a crippled man were found. So as we studied there, Sultan ordered every person of Delhi to shift to Devagiri, that was Daulatabad. So in order to make sure that every man was shifting, so that is why Sultan made a thorough search in the entire Delhi. So when the search was going on, a blind man and a crippled man were found. The crippled man was put to death. Cripple means the person who was unable to walk because of he might not be having one leg. So that crippled man, he was put to death because he cannot walk such a long distance. And while the blind man was tied to the tail of the horse. The blind man, he could walk very easily, so that is why he was tied to the tail of the horse and was dragged to Daulatabad. where only his one leg reached. So when everybody reached Daulatabad, the what was the scenario of the blind man, that his body got detached from his leg. The leg was tied to the tail, so that is why only the leg reached and not the blind man. So this was the condition of the shifting. This was the result of the shifting, how treacherous that condition was. However, the people were asked to shift, but despite of all these problems, the people were asked to shift. The distance from Delhi to Daulatabad, that was Devagiri, was nearly 1500 kilometers. The Sultan had set up rest houses on the way to help the travelers. Since this event took place during the summer season and the journey was rigorous one, many people died on the way. So this displacement took place in the summer season, and because of this heat, many people died on the way. Within a year, the Sultan realized his mistake as Mongols attacked on the empty Delhi, and other local rulers of North India began to revolt. So within a year of this shifting, the Sultan realized his mistake, that he should not have left Delhi, because now Delhi is empty. So the Mongols are attacking frequently on empty Delhi, as well as other local rulers of North India. They were also revolting. They also started their revolt against the Turkish ruler. So that is why within a short span he decided to reverse his decision. Reverse his decision means again he decided to reshift from Daulatabad to Delhi. So again a failure of the plan. Next is the token currency in 1330 AD. The failure of the above two plans and too much generosity of the Sultan caused a heavy loss to the treasury. That was the royal financial condition was getting empty because of this kind of experiments, but he was badly in need of money. For this purpose, he issued the copper coins, which had the same value as those of the gold or silver ones. So before that, in the market there was circulation of gold and silver coins, but in order to recover his wealth, in order to recover the loss, the Sultan ordered the issuing of the copper coins, which had the same value of gold and silver coins. Like other plans, this plan also failed. How this plan failed? People started minting copper coins at their homes, because copper is a very common metal. So that is why people started minting, means making copper coins at their homes. Gold and silver currency immediately disappeared from the market, because so much copper coins were getting minted that the entire market was circulated with copper coins. As the government had no control over the forged coins, forged means duplicate coins, they came easily in circulation. The entire market was filled with this duplicate copper coins. The trade came to a standstill and the kingdom became poorer than before. Nobody was willing to do trade with this Turkish Empire, with Delhi, because of the circulation of fake coins in the market, and that is why the kingdom became poorer and poorer. As a result, the Sultan had to withdraw the scheme. So in order to save his empire, he started to withdraw this scheme, and he had to pay gold and silver coins in exchange of copper coins from the treasury. So he withdrew all the copper coins, even the fake coins also, and he gave in return gold and silver coins in order to overcome this scenario. Again, what was the result? There was the loss of the royal treasury. Then the next is the other visionary plans. Mohammed bin Tughlaq planned two expeditions, two military expeditions, one to Karachi, that is Kangra Hills, and the other to Persia. But both these expeditions failed due to his own poor judgment. So his these two experiments, one to Kangra Hills and another to Persia, both these expeditions failed because of his poor judgment. These failures caused a heavy toll of life, means many lives were lost because of this poor judgment, and great loss to the treasury. Again, there was the loss of the royal treasury. Moreover, the Mongols had also become bold in their invasions. They now became very strong in their attacks. They reached the gates of Delhi in 1328 AD. Instead of facing them, he paid a huge sum to make them retreat. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq, instead of waging a war against the Mongols, instead of defending them, he paid them a huge sum of money to retreat. He gave the Mongols a huge sum of money to go back to their land, to withdraw themselves from Delhi. but this had an adverse effect. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought that if he gives them money, then they will go back, but that did not happen. That had an adverse effect, and their raids became more frequent, because they came to know that if they now come more frequently to attack, they will get, every time they will get more and more money. So that is why their raids became more frequent. As a result of the failure of these plans, the prestige of the empire was much undermined. Now people did not have any faith and belief in the prestige of the empire. Unfortunately for Muhammad, most of his policies tended to go wrong, and he gradually lost the support not only of the nobles and the ulemas, but also of the common people. Now nobody had faith and belief in the king. Everybody lost their faith and belief in the king. Even the ulemas. Who were the ulemas? The ulemas were the scholars of Islamic learning who were generally orthodox in their outlook. They were Islamic scholars who were very much orthodox, means traditional in their outlook.